Today we're going to talk about sights. Hi, Robert with Threefold Defensive Training. You can find us at www.3fdt.com for our website to show classes and other things like that. You're obviously on the YouTube page now, so you already found us. I want to talk about today is the three things. We talked about grip, we're going to talk about sights, we're going to talk about trigger. Today we're going to talk about sights. So what I want to first off start out with is our safety. This is an airsoft pistol, no magazine, there's no gas loaded into it. It is currently set up with a laser simulator on it, so it can't even fire a projectile, but just so we know, the gun is empty. There's nothing going on there, just to be safe. We're still going to treat this like an actual firearm, so we're not going to point the muzzle in any direction that we don't want to. We're going to keep our finger outside the trigger guard and be safe with the gun. What we want to do is we talked about grip and getting that recoil to be controllable. The reason for that controllable recoil is so that we can get our sights back on the target. So real briefly, we're going to talk about sights and what that sight picture should look like. We talk about sight picture, that means we have our sights aligned with each other, both the front and the rear sights are aligned, and then we place that those aligned sights over the target, and that gives us our sight picture. So right now, I just want to take a moment to show you guys what a good sight alignment should look like. Okay, so we're going to turn this to the camera so you can see those sights as we're down the gun. And what we want to have is we want to have the sights so that the rear sight is lined up with the front sight. And we'll know that because the front sight is the same height as the rear sight across the top. And you'll be able to see the same amount of distance on either side of that front sight through the picture of the rear sight, if that makes sense to everyone. Okay, so when we talk about getting our sights on the target, especially when it comes to recoil control, when we press out and we've got the gun and we've got full picture like that, what we're trying to do is get those sights aligned and be able to have controllable recoil. So when the gun recoils, my only job here is to put the sights back on the target. And when we talk about it in classes, and you've heard John Correa and some other instructors mention it, that grip is the master, the sights set the pace. So as often as my sights are on the target, I can go ahead and initiate contact with the trigger and work on pressing the trigger. And we'll talk about that trigger press in our next video. But you want to have your sights aligned with the target. And when we talk about these kind of sights, we're talking about our irons or our traditional sights, what we refer to as post and notch sights. We're not talking about red dots or anything fancy. We also need to take into consideration when we think about sights is our dominant eye. So you might hear some people say keep both eyes open, close one eye, squint one eye. Physiologically, we can only focus our eye on one object at a time clearly. And when we're talking about sights, we're talking about our front sight being the clear picture through our eye. So if I have to get a squint, like close one eye, then I need to know which eye to close. And we're talking about our dominant eye. So when I show you right now, I'm going to go ahead and point the gun at the camera. Like I said, it's an unloaded, safe airsoft, and my cameraman is fully aware of this. But what I want to do is I want to point the gun at the target, and I want to get it lined up with my dominant eye. And you can see me squinting my right eye because I'm left eye dominant. So if I kept both eyes open, as I drove the gun out, even with both eyes open, my eyes know to go to my dominant eye. So there I am. So if I was right eye dominant, I would bring the gun over to my right eye. And the way we catch this as instructors is when you see a student bring a gun up, you'll see them turn their head to get their right eye lined up with that sight. And then they're lined up, if that makes sense. So we want to watch for those little cues of cross dominance with our eyes. There's a couple of really nice tricks, and I think I'll do another video on how to check for eye dominance with the least amount of errors. But for now, get your sights lined up on the target, and as often as that happens, you are ready to engage your target again. All right, stay safe. Thanks for checking in.